And welcome back to another group therapy session. That is the podcast brought to you by the Livingston Parish News. We gather here usually on a Wednesday or Thursday and talk about what has happened from the week before and what is coming forward. I am joined by my cohorts here, fellow editors here at the Livingston Parish News. I'm going to let them introduce themselves today so that you, the viewer or the listener, can put a voice to a name. So, gentlemen, we're going to start on my left. Go ahead.
This is Rob DeArmond. I'm the sports editor here at the Livingston Parish News.
And now on my right.
And this is David Gray, lifestyle editor with the Livingston Parish News.
And there they are, ladies and gentlemen. A little less redundant today. Got a lot to talk about, quite a bit, and we are here in a nice steamy room. The AC on this side of the building is not functioning correctly, so I'm going to try to get them out of here because I blow a lot of hot air. First and foremost, we're going to start off with Mr. David Gray, because there's a lot of vaccination information out there. There's several layers to it. Eventually, we'll get to the point where we can talk about the fact that it seems that Livingston Parish, compared to at least the rest of the state, or in most instances compared to our large neighbors, New Orleans and Baton Rouge, we're moving a little slow.
Yes.
People are a little hesitant to go get that vaccine. So we've had 2 vaccination events so far, and another was announced yesterday. Let's talk about the 2 established vaccination efforts first.
Yeah, well, okay, so last week we had, it was a pretty big week. The school system, they had their first vaccination clinic. They were given one of the 2-dose vaccines, so the teacher's going to have to go back and get another one. But in the school system, it was a pretty good response. I mean, if you see, they were able to do around 700 vaccine doses, and that's out of 4,000 employees, and that doesn't count the employees that have been eligible before to get their vaccine doses. So they've actually had, compared to the parish as a whole, they've had a pretty good response. When you get to the parish as a whole, that's where you kind of see some of the numbers dip a little bit. In the story I wrote last week, the health director for Region 9, Gina Lagarde, she was really, that's what they're trying to stress, is to get these more of these community events out there, because especially in a lot of areas like Livingston Parish, Region 9 as a whole, where you have Livingston Parish, Tangipahoa, St. Helena, and Washington, you got a lot of these rural areas. So having these vaccine clinics are a way to help people who can't maybe get out there on their own. And especially with the Johnson & Johnson, with a single dose, it's easier to use that vaccine for these clinics, because that way, once the person gets a shot, they're done. So I think it was in Livingston Parish, it was in the bottom 10 of the 64 parishes in the state in terms of like percentage of residents who have been fully vaccinated so far. So yeah, it's just gotten off to kind of a slow start. But like I said, the 2 events that I went to, they almost, I guess you could say sold out. I mean, they're not paying for it, obviously, but they got rid of almost all the doses. There was very little waste. And there's another one this Thursday, March 18th at the LM Lockhart Park. So they're starting to get more of these vaccine events. And one thing that people don't realize is they don't have much time to prepare for these events. They're kind of given the heads up, like the Livingston Parish Office of Homeland Security Emergency Preparedness, or LOSEP, they are given maybe 48 hours of notice, and they are told how many doses they have, and they have to find a spot and roll them out. So I mean, it's not like these things are planned that far in advance, because you don't really know how many doses your area is going to get.
So it is interesting when you think about this from sort of a parish-wide effort, because on the one hand, they're selling out, like you said, or dosing out. No,
Yeah.
that doesn't sound good either. Nothing really sounds good, because then you say sticking out. No, that doesn't make sense. But they run out of supplies every time they stand one of these up, and they stand them up quickly. So that means there is a demand. Could it possibly be, and I'm asking for a little bit of opinion here, but could it possibly be that, just because of the way this is rolling out and the way it's rolling out in Livingston Parish, we just haven't seen that uptick yet?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also, how many doses you're getting, because Dr. Lagarde, she said whenever they expanded the eligibility to include, 18 and older with those certain health conditions, they didn't really expand the allotment that the parishes were getting. So, I mean, that also has something to do with it. But, I mean, you kind of look at how the parishes are, rank as a whole, and that for me, like, tells a lot. Like, what your percentage of people, that to me shows, I mean, it's not a perfect science, but I mean, it does show you that there is some hesitancy in Livingston Parish. And I mean, looking at the comment section, you could definitely see that there's hesitancy. I mean, granted, that's not also, that's an imperfect way to look at it as well, but there does appear to be some of that hesitancy. But when I talked with a few people at the clinic who got the vaccine, they didn't want the other vaccines. And I think that also has something to do with it. A lot of people just don't want to go back for a second dose, or have to go back for a second dose. A lot of them went to that one that was at the Livingston Parish Health Unit a couple Saturdays ago just because it was a Johnson & Johnson. So, I mean, I think when we get more of that coming, and we got an unexpected shipment to the state last week, that's what the clinic this Thursday in Dem Springs is using, the Johnson & Johnson. When the more Johnson & Johnson we get, I believe personally that the greater uptick you'll see in Livingston Parish people wanting to get vaccinated.
Sure. And, a lot of concern with people who are worried about what's in the Pfizer vaccine, what's in the Moderna vaccine. Also people who, like you said, were concerned about not being able to make that second appointment. Life happens.
I mean, look at a few weeks ago when we had that rare winter storm. That delayed a lot of the second appointment. So, I mean, I think there's some, legitimacy to these people being hesitant. And, of course, it's a new vaccine, so there's always going to be a little bit of hesitancy anyway. But I think when you have the Johnson & Johnson single-dose one, I think that's really going to push a lot of people to want to get vaccinated more.
Sure. So this week, Rob is the dejected one, so we're going to move over to him.
I'm not crying. It's okay.
My coffee.
Yeah, there you go. So we're not quite done with basketball season. We still got some all-district teams, some all-parish teams to come out, but we do have a little bit of sort of interim news before that. We got a couple of kids playing in the all-state game, correct?
Right. The coaches all-star game will be this weekend in Pineville. So on the boys' side, we got Dylan Gildner from Holden and Presley Scott from Doyle on the girls' side. Believe they start at 1:00 on Saturday in Pineville.
So I kind of a good way to bridge that gap. Good to see some of these kids getting statewide recognition,
right,
for their efforts.
And you mentioned it. We're in the process right now of getting nominations for the all parish team, and I'm scooping up all district teams as we speak. So just keep paying attention, and we'll have those in there here soon.
So moving into baseball and softball, we've been kind of skirting around it, kind of poking at it, but now we're really going to get into it. And we've got sort of two interesting storylines right now. First and foremost, kid from Springfield throwing 2 no-hitters. I mean, wow. What fanning a lot of batters. And then second, sort of, Walker has its ups and downs in baseball. But for them to kind of lay it on Live Oak like they did was very interesting. That happened last night. So let's first talk about our pitcher from Springfield.
That was actually softball last night.
Oh, excuse me.
Walker and Live Oak. So.
Maybe not. Maybe okay. So maybe I was a little off. I'm sorry.
You're still getting in a form, man. It's okay. It's all right.
So let's talk about our pitcher from Springfield.
So Jaden Teague, they played Fountain Blue Thursday in the Hammond tournament. I was there for that one, and literally we get done with the game, and they say that's ball game, and we're up in the press box, and kind of looked at it, and I go, guys, I'm pretty sure he threw a no-hitter here. And they were like, what? And I was like, that was just one of those, like, one of the most, I guess, you can't say nondescript, but it was just
quiet.
It was just quiet. Was that? And that's exactly how I described it. I was like, that might be one of the quietest no-hitters I've ever seen. Like, literally, we had to look around. It's like, before you guys' announcement, let me go back and look through my notes and make sure. And sure enough, I said, yeah, he did it, I think 5 strikeouts, and just, he said everything was working, and then Monday they played Albany, and Coach Blanchard texted me, and he said, Jaden just threw another one. So, and then you go back and look at that, and Spencer Harris texted me, and he said, man, it was a good one. Let me give y'all just the scoop on this one. He throws 43 pitches, 38 for strikes.
Wow.
That's a 5-inning ball game.
Yeah. That's efficient.
That is beyond efficient. There's no other way to kind of describe that. He faced 16 batters, struck out 5. And like it was just the one I saw was just steady, and you don't even realize it's happening. So, but he's throwing well, obviously.
And at a very highly efficient level. So, that's quite an accomplishment. I mean,
Yeah.
2 in, what is that, a 4-day span?
Just to have it, they went Thursday and Monday.
Yeah.
So just to have that happen, I had already set up my front page for this week with the 1.
Mhm.
So I had to go back and, I was like, wait a minute, we got to get both of them in there now. Cause
Sure.
I don't ever remember this happening. And I've been doing this for a while. But that was just one of those things where you just kind of go. And at the time when Coach Blanchard texted me, I was at Hammond, and a lot of people who were there for the Hammond tournament, and I was like, guys, the kid from Springfield threw another one. And that, they genuinely excited for him. It's like, man, that's something, And then when I tell him what he did pitch wise, it's that, like we did, it's like, man, that's just unbelievable.
It is. Especially at a high school level, a lot of times kids are still trying to get form, still trying to make sure that, when they call that. When they, usually at high school, when the coach is calling that ball outside, usually it's outside.
Outside, right.
So,
Exactly.
for a kid to throw 53 for 48 strikes, that's pretty incredible at a high school level. So good for him. And obviously, Springfield defense, stepping up as well.
I got to see him play. That was my first time seeing him, and just looking at him. You've heard coaches use that term of controlled chaos, which is what Coach Blanchard used. He said, and the kids like it. They're super aggressive on the base pass. There was one game over the weekend. There was a fielder's choice, and normally you may see one run score, but they were moving them. They scored 2 runs on a fielder's choice, which you don't see that very much. And I try to make a point. They're also doing a really good job of hitting the ball right back up the middle, which, when you can do that, I think most people try to teach that, and, it helps you out, makes it a little bit easier.
Sure. Another thing about, high school baseball, a lot of times those middle infielders aren't as lengthy and as fast as college kids, and especially in the pros. So you can get that ball back up the middle, you got a lot of chance to get some base hits.
Right.
Going over to that softball game. Softball.
It was
baseball,
softball. It was softball. Yes.
Still pretty good drumming. Was that expected?
It was my first time seeing both teams, and I will say this: last week Walker had a game in which they hit 7 home runs.
Wow.
Yes. So that was I think Coach Fletcher said that's a school record for them. 7 home runs. You got to go back, make sure count the book and make sure. But Walker came out just hitting the ball early. They got 4 runs on 4 hits in the first inning, and later inning they get 3 runs and all off of home runs, a 2-run homer and a solo shot. Caitlin Richey hits the first one, and then Laney Bailey, who was pitching, they go back to back on those, and then Richey had another one later on to lead off an inning. But once they got rolling, it's just I asked Coach about it, and she said we're just looking for pitches in our zone.
Sure.
And if we get them,
they clearly take them.
They take them. So I want to say they had 14 hits last night, and they combined Laney and Shake Snyder combined on a no-hitter last night. So
another no-hitter.
Yeah.
Goodness. So
that was Ryan Shake Snyder, by the way. I forgot her first name. So
just to let folks know that that amount of hitting in the high school setting is pretty intense. So a lot of intense baseball and softball going on right
Coming
now.
in bunches too, man. It was just bunches, and then talking to Coach Prescott at Live Oak, it's just the thing I got, because I was in their dugout trying to shoot pictures with my phone, which is, you guys will see they're not the greatest in the world, but just when they're coming back, it was she's staying positive with them. Look, guys, and a lot of times when I talk to coaches, I go, what did we learn today?
Mm-hmm.
And she said, we'll take this and we'll learn from it. And, the thing is to build on what we're doing. And they just, she said, we just want to be competitive every time we go out, regardless of what the situation is. We don't change what we're doing.
Right. Well, of course, y'all can follow the baseball and softball action at www.livingstonparishnews.com/sports, or you can check Rob out on Twitter. Obviously, with 18 total teams, 9 high schools, all with baseball and softball teams, he can't make every game, but he is trying to pull these books together in the roundup so you can at least go see what your team's doing there. Jumping back over to Mr. David Gray. we actually have some lifestyle stuff going on. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's starting to get busy again.
We had the Tickfall 200 canceled, but still some other things going on. You had a play to cover. And I remember when we were talking about last week, it had been a year, since the start of COVID. You and I were at that play because my stepson was in drama.
Yeah, we were at a high school play. Yeah, it was the first the day that you could say bleep hit the fans. It was that day when it all, and I hadn't covered, and that was a big part of my job, was covering plays, because you have a lot of these high school theater departments. They put on a lot of great productions every year, multiple productions a year, some of them, and this year there's been nothing. Denham High did one play, a very COVID friendly production. But other than that, it's been pretty quiet until this week. I went to the dress rehearsal for the Columbia Theater's Wizard of Oz production. And those you don't know, the Columbia Theater is in downtown Hammond. And their production of the Wizard of Oz is going on all throughout the month of March. Basically Friday through Sunday, all the weekends of March. So you go online to columbiatheater.com to get tickets that way, but it's a great. You have some Livingston Parish kids in it, Tangipahoa kids in it. So I mean, there's a lot of local talent in there. It's not like a college production or anything. It's not college kids. It's teenagers, and but they put on a great production. Like I said, there was about 10 of us in the theater, and I went to the dress rehearsal so that I could actually move around and take pictures. So it was fun to actually be able to, take pictures of a play, something I haven't done in a long time. So, there's some great photos online. If you want to grab a copy of the paper this week, our graphic designer, Paul, did an amazing job with the feature page. So you should want to check that out. But yeah, that's kind of that. It was fun to be able to do that for a change.
Sure. We talked about vaccines earlier with you, trying to get back into sort of this, a rhythm, I guess you can say. Also in school news, we had a young lady here in Livingston Parish, who absolutely killed it on the ACT. And by killed it, I mean she was perfect.
Yeah, didn't miss. Yes, she was perfect. Victoria Germany is her name. She's a senior at Denham High. And, of course, she's wanting to go into science when she graduates high school and goes to college.
Shocked.
She's choosing between, I think it was Duke, LSU, and Vanderbilt. I can't remember exactly, but big-time school. She's, her options are wide open with a score like that. She's in 5 AP classes, so, I mean, just a top student. And also plays soccer and is in the band. So, I mean, well-rounded students. But, yeah, that was just some cool news. I think the last time there was maybe one snuck by me that I didn't realize, but I know in 2019, I believe it was one, there was a kid from French Settlement, who got a perfect score on the ACT, kid named Braden Amy. I don't know if, Rob, you remember, he used to play basketball, I believe. He was a basketball player, and he got a perfect score on the ACT. So that's the last one I remember. So, I mean, it's a pretty rare thing. So, yeah, I mean, good for her. That destroys what I got on the ACT. So
completely.
Well, she definitely has options. So good for her. And Rob, I want to jump over here for a second, because I seem to remember you bringing up in pre-production when we were talking about all these things. You were at a game when that news broke, and these other ladies were very excited for her.
It was pretty cool. I'm at the softball game last week, Doyle and Springfield, and you see Caitlin Randall, who does the if you guys go to Springfield, anything, Caitlin's there. She's a cheerleader, played on a volleyball team, but she does the announcing for the softball games, and she's kind of scrolling through her phone, and I was kind of standing up in the back, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, look at this!" So it's one of those things where, as a high school student, you see somebody do that, and they were really excited for her. This is coming from another school, but when the kids see that, you can't help but be kind of amazed by that.
Sure, and it's a big deal.
I didn't come close. I'm just letting you know. So,
well, everybody's got their strengths, right? For some people, standardized testing is not one of them. because there's a secret to it as well. You know,
I was
they
happy.
offer all sorts of
I was
courses and
happy with
stuff
what
about
I
it.
got. I'll just tell you, I got a 22, and I was happy with that.
Well, that's fair enough. Fair enough. David, you want to share yours?
I'm good.
Go ahead,
I
man.
don't even think I can remember it actually.
Well, that's fair enough.
I'm older than you too.
Yeah, so that probably tells you I didn't do too well.
What was it? Chris Carter says, "Come on, man."
Come on, man.
So, David, we're also starting to get, we're still in sort of this rhythm of COVID stories, but this one's a little more heartwarming than most. A young man whose grandfather currently has COVID, correct?
Yeah, he's still recovering from COVID.
Okay.
Still recovering from the effects of COVID.
So, this has been hard on seniors and children and grandchildren and those kinds of things. They've had a lot of trouble seeing each other during COVID. Well, this grandson said, I'm going to kind of rise above that. I'm going to find a way to get in touch with my granddad because I want him to recover. I want him to have that strength. So tell us a little bit about this story.
Yeah, there was a kid named James Lopez III. He's from Denham Springs. He's a karate kid. He competes in a lot of karate, martial arts competitions, that sort of thing. And he actually competed in one beginning of the new year and got first place, a couple first place awards actually, and then received a medal and decided he wanted to send that medal to his grandfather because he said the medal was given to, goes to a person who, shows courage, he rises above, and he wrote a letter to his grandfather saying that you're the one who's kind of doing that right now because talked to James's mother. She said that it's her father-in-law, James's grandfather, who had a really bad bout with COVID. Said he was in really bad shape, could barely breathe, and that letter just sort of just lifted his spirits. I mean, he was able to go home. The family was thrilled when he was able to finally return home. He's still at home recovering. She said, I just messaged her yesterday, and she said, he's still, dealing with this. This was in January when he went to the hospital with COVID, or was dealing with COVID in the hospital. He was in the hospital for about a little over a month. So, I mean, just like I said, it's not, nothing that's going to change the world, but just a nice heartwarming story to, just kind of underscore, how real this has been for so many people the last year. Yeah, over a year now.
So, yeah, I mean, just it's interesting because it's almost kind of a full circle moment. You can see this granddad inspiring his grandson and the grandson wanting to give that back.
Yeah.
So very, very, the word you used was heartwarming. It's a very, very heartwarming story. So again, we enjoy sitting down for a little group therapy here at the Livingston Parish News. Going to ask you guys to give sort of a outroduction, if you will. We're going to start with the man on my right first.
Hi, David Gray, lifestyle editor with the Livingston Parish News.
And you, sir.
Hey, this is Rob DeArmond. I'm the sports editor at the Livingston Parish News.
And my name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. We do appreciate you guys sitting down and either listening or not yet watching, although we have found a clever way to present it on Facebook as a video. You get to watch our little waveform voices go up and down. But we do appreciate you guys joining us. We have a lot of fun sitting down here talking about what's going on last week, what's coming up this week. And we will have Mr. Gary Frog Talbert in here tomorrow. He's going to be talking about roads and sex shops. So it's going to be
what a tease.
Lot
of diversity.
There is. We are a diverse parish here, and we are trying all sorts of things. So we hope you guys will be on the lookout for that. I, again, want to thank my two editors for joining me today, and we appreciate you guys as well. Please remember that the news is on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube once a week in print on Thursdays at $7 a month to get that in your mailbox. We're also online, www.livingstonparishnews.com. We hope you have a great day, and we will catch you next time.